This is Alcantry. This channel used to be all called Alcantry, and then YouTube wanted me to give my real name, but I still like to be referred to as Alcantry.
Your cyber name, Alcantry.
Cyber name. You gave me that name. What does it mean? Like the serpent or something?
Yeah.
The black serpent.
A black serpent going into the
grass. In the Nahuatl language. So my name in Nahuatl is actually Tequanotla. Alcantry.
Was it Oso Negro?
Oso Negro. That's what it means, but it's actually, if you translate it literally from the Nahuatl, it means the thing that eats us up, or the thing that devours us. That's the real meaning of Tequanotla.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's the common word for a black bear, as I understand.
A black bear. Kind of like to drink Oso Negro.
Oso Negro. Oso Negro is the name of a hotel in this novel by B. Traven, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. That would be the place where the people who are really down and out would hang out, or just spend the night, or maybe they would just leave their things there and then disappear and never be heard of again. That's the Hotel Oso Negro in wow. The B. Traven novel.
Have you been working on any new projects?
Well, I'm writing my own novel called The Child of Destiny. I'm writing it in Spanish. I don't want to give away the plot, but I kind of left it on the side. Maybe my mind just needs to incubate it. That's the way creative writing is. It's not something you can crank out. I guess you can crank out academic articles, but you can't crank out creative writing. Sometimes it just needs time to germinate. On
it's like kind of like when you get writer's block, and you need some inspiration.
Yeah. Well, I'm not suffering writer's block. I just, I guess it's more of.
You can't just plan it out. It just has to come naturally from.
Yeah, I'm letting it develop.
Okay. Have you been studying any new languages?
Well, I started on one new language this semester. I started on Quechua, and that kind of came out of my interest in Peruvian archaeology. That's also a new interest. It started with my interest in the Chachapoya, but now I've started to become interested in all the pre-Columbian civilizations in the area. The Mochis and even the Incas, even though they're fairly well known. But it's fascinating because there's such a diversity of different cultures in ancient Peru, and totally different cultures in close proximity, totally different iconography, type of imagery, and looking at the Chachapoya iconography, it's amazingly Celt-like. So even if they're not descended from Celts, they would be an extremely interesting case of parallel evolution in my opinion. They were the little stone houses and the fortifications up on the hilltops, and even the meandering squiggly lines that look so very Celt-like, and there's a whole host of other things, but there is such a thing as parallel evolution. So who knows? But the resemblance of the Celts is quite fascinating. They're fascinating in themselves. I mean, they don't need to be descended from Europeans to be fascinating.
Yeah.
And so I started on Quechua, which it's actually still the official language of Peru. But don't ask me to say something in Quechua. I just started. I've been looking at basic vocabulary and basic phrases. But it's I think if you're going to be serious about reading about Peru, reading some of the writers like Enrique Garcilaso de la Vega, you should have some background in Quechua, because it's just part of the culture. It's just there in the fabric, in the cultural fabric.
Yeah.
And it'll help you understand the culture better, even if your goal is not to become fluent in Quechua.
I think that's important, right? When you're studying a language, to actually study the culture also, and
they're so closely intertwined, and one thing will shed light on the other. I think
kind of like truly understand where the language is coming from.
If you discard the notion of a language, there's always going to be a disconnectedness there, I think. So if you're interested in a part of the world, start studying the major languages of that part of the world, especially the languages that came first, not the languages of the colonizers, but the original languages.
Wow, the foundation stones, you know, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Um, so do you have any plans? Like, what are your plans for next year? Now that you know December's already coming, the new year and everything.
Well, I'm going to continue uh, doing some of the things now, like I'm studying Mandarin Chinese,
Hmm.
and for the medium of classical Latin. We could say that classical Latin being scholastic. I mean the language of scholars basically, and that
Yeah.
goes way into the 18th century and even into the 19th century. And the book I'm using is actually written by an Englishman, and I believe published in the beginning of the 19th century. It has excellent Latin, and it just gives a lot of examples of Chinese with the original Chinese characters, and then transcriptions. They're not like pinyin. Some of them are they're rather curious sometimes, but you get the gist of it. And for me, it's a much more interesting way of studying Chinese. You know, there aren't many people studying Chinese through the medium of Latin. I think there's very few of us, so that makes it far more interesting, in my opinion. You know, I was just striving for uniqueness in one way or another. And then the language, another language I've really been focusing on in German, but not the idea of acquiring conversational German. I mean, I have to go to Germany for that, I think.
Yeah.
But just being able to follow videos and read serious books in German, and I've been doing that. And as a matter of fact, I can usually watch a documentary in German with about the same level of comprehension I have in English. You know, occasionally some things escape me, but it's usually about 90%. Italian too. I like watching videos in Italian just because I can. Yeah. It's fun, and I can understand quite a bit. Some people might think I don't like English, but that's not really the case. The case is it's just too easy for me, so I prefer to learn new languages through other
like
foreign languages.
Yeah, more challenge, you know.
I like the challenging part. And with German, you know, often it's like a puzzle. You kind of have to figure out exactly what it's saying and what the text is saying, and that makes it much more fun. So basically, I've been concentrating on German, doing some reading in French. You know, trying to perfect my French. And the other language, of course, is Latin. I'm reading through a Latin to German dictionary. So I'm, again, killing two birds with one stone. And it's just a scholastic dictionary, but I've actually taken it to class. I've actually taken it to my Spanish civilization class and translated, you know, has passages on Roman civilization, on different Roman emperors and so forth. So in my discussion of two Roman emperors, of course, I lecture in Spanish. I just took the book to class and translated directly from the German into Spanish, and that gave you a vision of those two. I mean, it gave you a pretty good sketch of those two emperors who are Trajan and Hadrian, and so I think the Germans are have some of the best scholarly stuff. Maybe you know, it's maybe not. Too daring to say that German is still the most scholarly language there is.
Well,
okay, so you know, it's been the main focus, and well, with French, I just keep on reading and absorbing. I think absorbing it naturally. You know, it's time to take it in because I want to speak French with native-like fluency.
Any techniques you would advise your YouTube subscribers, you know, on learning languages?
Well, I think it's a matter of level. You know, like with something, a language you're just starting on, and a language that's exotic. Just get a basic grammar and read through it and memorize as many examples as you can, and take your time. You know, maybe just repeat a word or a phrase to yourself for 15 minutes or even a whole half hour. You know, I do that when I'm going to work. I usually take something with me and just. So it's about the 10-minute walk from my apartment. So I usually memorize a word or a phrase on my way to work, on my way back from work. You can find moments in the day, you know, when you're shopping too or whatever, the things that are usually rather banal and ordinary. Just take a language book with you. And then if you want, for more advanced levels, of course, nothing's going to beat living in the country and interacting with the natives for a long time. But if you can't do that, you know, if you can't spend half a year in the country, we're living in an age that's quite marvelous because we have the YouTube, for instance. And with the YouTube, it's possible
Yeah.
to live in just about any of the major world languages.
Yeah.
You can spend a whole
You
day
could
living in Russia.
You could explore the whole world and,
Yeah.
you know, different ideas and languages and cultures.
Exactly. So just immerse yourself if you have access.
It's a great tool, you know.
Yeah, and it's becoming more and more global languages are simply coming to the fore. You know, I think there's probably 10 or 15, between 10 and 15 global languages that are simply coming to the fore. And there's more and more documentaries, you know, newscast, all kinds of things in those languages. And if you don't know that language, you're depriving yourself of something. You know, because you're not going to get exactly the same thing in English or Spanish. So, so my advice, you know, if you're bilingual already, we'll learn a third language and then a fourth language.
Yeah.
It's one of the best investments you can do for yourself. Even though it takes time, you know, like
you can't do it overnight. You know, it takes time.
No way. Yeah, Rome wasn't built in one day. So, but be patient with yourself and give yourself 4 or 5 years, and you'll see how far you've gone.
All right.
Okay, that's
All
it.
right. That's it, YouTube viewers, and see you next time.